Hello again, Guyana, and welcome to another edition of Facing the Nation. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you very much for joining us. Is it? I think it's the final Friday in the month of July. Is it? Yes, because the next thing we're going to be celebrating is Emancipation, which is coming up on the 1st of August. That is next Thursday. I hope I have my days correct here. If I don't, just forgive me. The brain is getting a little old, and every now and again I have to try to massage it to bring it back to current things. Again, thank you so very much for joining us this week. I did tell you last week, because there's so much happening in our country in terms of politics and governance, what we're going to be trying to do is to keep you updated. So most Fridays, what we're going to do is have some of the information that you or may not have missed in the week gone by, and we're going to bring it here. So it's sort of a reheating process, and it's good because sometimes people get caught up with everyday lives. Sometimes we just simply get fed up of the talk about politics and so on, so we choose to tune out at a certain point during the week. So what we're doing here Friday is trying to bring that back to you and bring you even some of the fresh information. So again, that means, in other words, I'm alone again today, but I have lots for you. So much is happening. We're still dealing with lies and propaganda in the press, and whether people are for the government or against the government, we're still dealing with a lot. There's a lot up in the air. So I think it's one of my duties as a supporter of this government. Obviously, despite some flaws, I think it's one of our duties. My duties here on Facing the Nation is to bring as much clarity as I possibly can to some of the things that are happening. Again, we've had a busy week. Firstly, we know His Excellency, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Brigadier David Granger, he left last week to do a medical checkup. Of course, after he has successfully not only battled, but I think the cancer foundations or the foundations and the activists working in the interest of minimizing the instances of cancer, they're now calling them survivors. So our president is a survivor, but obviously he has to do continuous checkups. Some of you may or may not heard early in the week, he returned from Cuba Tuesday evening, and of course he has been given a clean bill of health. His doctors there in Cuba are very satisfied with his progress, so that means he'll be ready. Well, he is already ready and raring to go. And you know, it's interesting. Earlier in this month, also, the president celebrated his 74th birth anniversary. And sometimes I think the man has much more energy than so many of us who are far away from 70. I mean, we can only pray and hope that we're blessed with so many years and even more than 74. So he's a very strong individual, and you know, he has lots of energy, and we saw some of that energy coming out yesterday. That's on Thursday. That's for those of you who are viewing this program long after. On Thursday, he did a lot. I mean, again, in one day, sometimes some of us, we barely have enough energy to get up out of bed, and he's doing all of that in one day. I know he addressed three major groups yesterday: members of the diplomatic corps, members of the private sector. I know there's a big laugh when it comes to the private sector now, because again, these are not my words, but some people are calling the PSC, the private sector, asking if it's a new political party, because all of a sudden the private sector, or I should say a few in the private sector commission, would have found their voices. But I'm happy. I'm as one of my colleagues put it, it really is good that you're paying so much attention to what is happening in our country politically and government-wise. I wish that when we see the big headlines splashed across the newspaper, this woman being murdered, this woman being shot by her husband, fiance, whatever, this person commits suicide, this teenager commits suicide, I would just want to I would expect that when we have these horrid headlines and horrible headlines that take our human resources, that take our country's human resources, that we hear the voices of the private sector commission. Not only when, you know, it suits their purpose, but again, I'm happy that they found their voices. We always must support freedom of speech. I mean, even though people have only been able to freely speak since May 2015, we must be happy and congratulate ourselves and pat ourselves on the shoulder and on our backs when we're able to say what we wish freely without consequences or without care about whatever. So congratulations to the private sector. I mean, some people are calling it a new political party, yeah, but again, those are not my words. But brought up the private sector commission because those are the private sector in general, actually. Those are one of the groups the president addressed yesterday. However, on this program, I'll be showing you the address that he made to the diplomatic corps. Again, three groups. We don't have enough time on this program to show you all the energy that the president has and all of the energy used up in one day yesterday. He didn't use all of his energy, but he used a lot of it yesterday. So we don't have enough time to show you on this program everything that he did. But coming up a little later on, you'll definitely have that address from the president to the members of the diplomatic corps. It's a bit lengthy. It's almost 30 minutes. So I want you to be very patient. And again, this is why we're bringing these things to you, so you can hear it from the horse's mouth. I know even though sometimes we get angry with some sections of the general media corps, there are those who are doing their job and doing it diligently, but also we have to understand that some of them, whether it's newspapers or television, in the sense of television, sometimes you only have 30 seconds or 60 seconds for a sound bite, for an insert. So even though the journalists and the reporters try their best to write around those inserts, there are times when you miss important things. So I'll definitely bringing you the president's address to the members of the diplomatic corps in its entirety. But before I do that, a youth movement is, well, I shouldn't say finding its voice. They've always had a voice, but because of so many negatives and so much propaganda that is being spewed out there, this youth movement decided to speak a little earlier in the week. This is also a lengthy statement, because when we're dealing with the sort of propaganda that is being peddled out there, we have to try to put in as much information as we possibly can. This statement, of course, was endorsed by the chairman of the Ghana Youth and Student Movement, Mr. Ryan Belgrave. Those of you who watched the program last week, you know he was here and he was giving you updates and so on. So before I go to the president's address, I'm going to try to read as much as possible of it, because I noticed my voice is straining today. I'm not sure why, but this basically is important, so I'm just going to be asking you to bear with me. Of course, it is all about putting information in the public domain. The Guyana Youth and Student Movement, for those of you who don't remember, it is the youth arm of the People's National Congress Reform. I always remind you, the People's National Congress Reform is the largest political party in the coalition government. The Guyana Youth and Student Movement says it is very worried about Irfan Ali and the PPP's dishonest attempts. Sometimes I get annoyed when I have to call these people's names, but again, it's all for the press statement, so you would understand what's happening. But the movement is worried about Irfan Ali and the PPP's dishonest attempts to suppress the rights of young people by trying to stop a new credible list from being developed through house-to-house registration. Thousands of young people who are eligible to vote are not on the old and expired list. Acting to try and stop house-to-house registration is a clear and direct attempt to use illegitimate means to block young people from voting. Now, that's just the first paragraph. And here I pause, because this is one of the things I spoke about earlier in the week on social media. You're going around and you're saying to your supporters, do not get registered because it is quote-unquote illegal. Again, in your definition of illegal, what you're actually doing is trying to create confusion and cause chaos. So when GCOM has completed one community or one section or one area, what are you going to tell your supporters then when they come and say to you, well, we weren't registered because you said don't register? So I am urging people, and let's use sense here, regardless of which political side of the fence you are on. Why would you turn away GCOM when they come to get you registered? Understand that you getting registered, and I said this on social media, it doesn't make you disloyal to that one-man band who is on television hosting a press conference not too far away from Channel 6 studios. It doesn't make you disloyal to him. You know, if you mean that you must be loyal to him and you must do every single thing that he says, it makes you smart to get registered. So I'm urging everyone, go and get registered. And to continue to read from the youth movement's statement, it says the steps they have taken to seek, meaning the PPP, the steps they have taken to seek an injunction are the latest in a series of shocking maneuvers to try and force an election on an old, outdated list, which not only disenfranchises thousands of youths, but also contains the names of as many as 200,000 people who are not eligible to vote. We believe that this is a blatant attempt to manipulate the election outcome through phantom voting and multiple voting, dishonest practices which the PPP have been exposed as by using former PPP insiders Of course, again, this is a statement from the GYSM. You know, I try to be very cautious on our program in terms of calling names, so I'm not going to publicly state the name that they have here. However, it is fear that is driving them to seek an injunction. This is the GYSM believes that it's fear that is driving the PPP to seek an injunction against house-to-house registration because they know they cannot win on a clean list. We will not let their fear, we meaning the GYSM, will not let their fear and dishonesty steal the rights of our young people. Today we have a government which is delivering for all Guyanese and which respects the rights of young people. For the first time in 23 years, the government is cracking down on serious crimes. They are building and maintaining record amounts of infrastructure. And I have a little piece on some of the infrastructure that the government has undertaken coming up a little later on in the program. I know I'm rambling on. I hope we have time for it. Our education system is being made fit for purpose so that young people get the skills they need to get a decent job. Our healthcare system is treating more people than ever before. And finally, we are seeing Guyanese people coming together as David Grange's government promotes unity. There is more that this government wants to do, but it is absolutely clear to us that Irfan Ali and the PPP are putting their own selfish and dishonest ambitions ahead of our young people's rights and the progress of our country, the GYSM continued. This is exactly the way they operated during the 23 years of government, where their lies, selfish, and dishonesty left our capital underwater and used as the country's dumping ground. Our education system crumbled, leaving us, the youth, without hope for the future or a decent job. They did nothing to support jobs for young people. Instead, they destroyed important industries like our sugar and rice industries, leaving tens of thousands fearful of the future. Guyanese came together to put an end to their tricks, lies, and dishonesty in the 2015 elections, but they won't accept this. And they are relying on a dishonest list to give Guyanese people a dishonest government. House-to-house registration is our only chance at a fair and credible election. That there was a statement, I tried to read most of it, a statement from the Guyana Youth and Student Movement. Again, that is the youth arm of the People's National Congress Reform. And again, you heard it from them. It just reminds me to remind you, do not be distracted by those who are telling you that you should not go and get registered. Go and get registered. It is a legal process. And you know, getting registered is not only about voting. There are so many things that you need an ID card for, especially in this day and age. Again, this is some sort of, not even ancient. I don't even know how to describe the sentiments, and you think that this is good advice. You're advising your supporters not to get registered. I mean, to put it in our terms, some screw is probably loose up there. I really don't understand it. But for now, I'm going to go to that footage. The clip, actually, well, it's not a clip, it's longer than a clip. I promised you the President, His Excellency Brigadier David Grange's address to the diplomatic corps on Thursday. This is Facing the Nation. After that clip, we'll have much more with you. Stay tuned.
Vice Presidents Cameron Ramsey and Sydney Malika, Ministers of the Government, Secretary General of the Britain Community, Ambassador Irfan Ali, members of the Diplomatic Corps, officers of the Discipline and Defense Forces, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. I've invited you today to explain in great detail the current political situation in my country. I start by assuring you that the government of Guyana is committed to upholding the Constitution, to respecting the institutions of the state, including the National Assembly and the courts, to ensuring the rule of law, to safeguarding human and civil rights, and to preserving our democracy, especially through the conduct of free, fair, and credible local and general and regional elections. Your Excellencies, recent political developments have been subject to some misinterpretation and misrepresentation of the government's intentions and they need to be clarified. The government, since the passage of the no confidence motion in the National Assembly on the 21st of December 2018, sought to respect the decisions of the court, we have upheld the Constitution. We challenge the validity of the no confidence motion. We defend the challenge to the constitutionality of the appointment of the chairman of the Elections Commission. The legal processes which we initiated were neither frivolous nor calculated to delay the consequences of the no confidence vote. They sought to explain more clearly and to interpret certain provisions of the Constitution. The legal challenges were taken to the Supreme Court, then to the Court of Appeal, and finally to the Supreme Court of Justice, or final court. At the Supreme Court of Judicature, the government, through the Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, filed a fixed date application on the 7th of January 2019, challenging the passage of the no confidence motion on the basis that the opposition did not secure a majority as required by the Constitution. The Attorney General, by way of the application, asked the court to determine whether the Speaker's declaration that the no confidence motion was carried by a majority in the National Assembly was lawful, was unlawful, null and void, on the basis that it contradicted the Constitution of the country. The Chief Justice, on the 31st of January this year, ruled that the no confidence motion was lawful. The Chief Justice ruled also that on the issue of dual citizenship, the vote of former government member of parliament who had voted in favor of the opposition motion was valid, although as a person holding dual citizenship, he was occupying a seat in the National Assembly in contravention of the Constitution of Guyana. At the Court of Appeal, the government filed an appeal on the 5th of February 2019, challenging the Chief Justice's ruling. The Court of Appeal, on the 22nd of March 2019, by a majority, ruled that the no confidence motion against the government was invalid. The Court of Appeal ruled, additionally, that a person holding dual citizenship was not entitled to be a member of the National Assembly. The government, in accordance with the court's ruling, replaced 4 of its ministers of the cabinet who held dual citizenship on the 25th of April 2019 in pursuance of the court's ruling. We then went to the Supreme Court of Justice. Excellencies, as you are aware, the parliamentary opposition filed an appeal on the 27th of March 2019, asking the Supreme Court of Justice to issue an order to direct that general and regional elections be held in the shortest possible time if the court found that the no confidence motion was validly passed. The CCJ, on the 18th of June 2019, declared that the no confidence motion in the government was valid, and on the 12th of July, issued its consequential orders. And I've asked that each one of you should have a copy of the consequential orders of the Supreme Court of Justice for ease of reference. The court declared that the provisions of the Constitution apply to a no confidence motion and that the government member of parliament who voted to support the opposition motion was ineligible to be elected to the assembly by virtue of his citizenship of another state, but that his vote on the motion of no confidence was valid. Excellencies, the President of the CCJ declared in alia that the process applied to appoint the chairman of the Elections Commission was flawed, void, and in breach of the Constitution. The government, and I personally, in accordance with the court ruling, accepted the resignation of the chairman very cordially. I then embarked on a process to engage the leader of the opposition to select a new chairman. The Constitution states, and I quote, "The chairman of the Elections Commission shall be a person who holds or who has held the office as a judge of a court, having unlimited jurisdiction in civil and criminal matters in some part of the Commonwealth, or a court having jurisdiction in appeals from any such court, or who is qualified to be appointed as any such judge, or any other fit and proper person to be appointed by the President from a list of 6 persons not unacceptable to the President, submitted by the leader of the opposition after meeting consultation with the non-governmental political parties represented in the National Assembly." In that article, the word court is mentioned 6 times, giving the criteria for the selection of the chairman a particular complexion. The CCJ, in its ruling of the 18th of June, proposed, however, that, and I quote, "Before a list is submitted, the leader of the opposition and the President must," a very strong four-letter word, "must communicate with each other in good faith on, and perhaps even meet to discuss eligible candidates for the position of chairman. The aim of these discussions must be to agree the names of 6 persons who fit the stated eligibility requirements and who are not unacceptable to the President. I have acted in good faith. I met twice with the leader of the opposition since the CCJ issued its rulings. First on the 4th of July, and again on the 16th of July. The teams identified by the government and opposition to continue the process of identifying nominees for the position of chairman of the Elections Commission met 4 times between the 8th of July and the 17th of July. The CCJ's ruling also stated, and I quote, "Once the President and the leader of the opposition have hammered out a list of names not unacceptable to the President, the list comprising the 6 persons must then formally be submitted to the President by the leader of the opposition, and the President must then select the chairman from among those names." If I can read that again. Once the President and the leader of the opposition have hammered out a list of names not unacceptable to the President, the list comprising the 6 persons must then formally be submitted to the President by the leader of the opposition, and the President must then select the chairman from among those names. The CCJ emphasized that this approach gives the President a role in the identification of the 6 names. The CCJ has interpreted the provisions of the Constitution as ascribing a role for the President in identifying persons for consideration as chairman. Excellencies, I had a reasonable expectation that the government's recommendations would have been accorded serious consideration during the consensual process. Thank you. I have advised the leader of the opposition that any list emerging out of a process which does not accord serious consideration to the government's recommendations in the spirit of the CCJ ruling will be spurious, and that I would have great difficulty in accepting such a list. Excellencies, the government is complying with the orders of the court. We are resolved to ensure the expeditious appointment of a chairman of the Elections Commission. We seek fair, free, and credible elections as early as possible. The Elections Commission at present, however, is without a quorum and has been able to function owing to the absence of a chairman. My government will continue to act in good faith to ensure that the chairman, not unacceptable to the president, is appointed so as to ensure that democratic elections are held in Ghana as early as possible. Free and fair and credible elections are essential to representative democracy, but can be assured only if certain minimum conditions are met. These conditions include an independent and functional elections commission, an acceptable and credible official list of electors, and an efficient and competent secretariat to manage those elections. The independence of the Elections Commission is safeguarded by the Constitution. It is insulated from political influence, instruction, and interference. The Constitution under Article 62 charges the Commission with the conduct of elections, and I quote, "Elections shall be independently supervised by the Election Commission in accordance with the provisions of Article 162. Let us go to Article 162, which states, and I quote, "The Elections Commission shall have such functions connected with or relating to the registration of electors or the conduct of elections as are conferred upon it under this Constitution or subject thereto by any act of Parliament and subject to the provisions of this Constitution. The Commission shall exercise general direction and supervision over the registration of electors and the administrative conduct of all elections of members of the National Assembly, and shall issue such instructions and take such action as appear to be necessary or expedient to ensure impartiality, fairness, and compliance with the provisions of the Constitution or of any act of Parliament on the part of persons exercising powers or performing duties connected with or relating to the matters aforesaid. Notwithstanding anything to the contrary in the Constitution, if the Elections Commission is satisfied that the holding of an election pursuant to the provisions of paragraph 2 of Article 60 or Article 162 on the day appointed, therefore, would be attended either generally or in a particular area by danger or serious hardship, it may, after consultation with the Prime Minister and leader of the opposition, by notice published in the Gazette, postpone the holding of the election to a day specified in the notice, or postpone the voting in any area specified in the notice on a day so specified. Excellencies, the proclamation of an unrealistic date by the executive is ruled out by the Constitution, which gives certain powers to the Election Commission. The adoption of a list by any agency outside of the Election Commission is prohibited by our Constitution and will damage the elections and attempt to sell on such a spurious date or with such a spurious list. Excellencies, the credibility of elections is dependent in part on the integrity of the official list of electors. A corrupted list can undermine the electoral process, encourage mischief and malpractice, and result in the elections being vitiated. The existing official list of electors falls short of acceptable standards. It cannot guarantee free, fair, and credible elections. A new list needs to be constituted, and it has been recommended that this should be done through a process of house-to-house registration. This is entirely a matter for the Election Commission. This is not a matter for any political party or the executive. The Commission must decide. House-to-house registration is an efficient and credible process. The Election Commission in 2019 had requested funding for its planned house-to-house registration upon the expiration of the existing list, the validity of which came to an end on the 30th of April 2019. The National Assembly approved, prior to the expiration of the list, a sum of $5.371 billion Guyana dollars, and subsequent to the passage of the vote of no confidence, it approved an additional $3.482 billion this year. So in all, the Election Commission has been provided with over $8.8 billion between November and don't know if the arithmetic might be correct. But you can add 5.371 to 3.482. So the government has not been dilatory in providing funds for the Election Commission to do its work. Excellencies, elections will not be practical unless the Election Commission is prepared. It is for the Election Commission to advise the President on its readiness to conduct free, fair, and fair elections. It would be reckless and irresponsible on my part to name a date for elections without the Commission's assurance and advice that it will be ready to conduct elections on such a date. My government is keen to have elections in the shortest possible time. It has to be satisfied, however, that the bases for holding free, fair, and credible elections exist. We shall continue in the interim to uphold the Constitution, to comply with the orders of the court and act in good faith in the consensual process to appoint a chairman of the Elections Commission. Step by step, the legal process and the electoral process is, of course, the political process. Excellency, I wish to advise that in the wake of the passage of the no confidence motion in December 2018 and following the CCJ's ruling and consequential orders in June and July 2019, I have taken the following action. Meeting the leader of the opposition in January 2019, meeting the Elections Commission, accepting the resignation of 4 of my cabinet ministers in April 2019, making 3 broadcasts to the nation on the 18th of June and on the 9th and 12th of July, accepting the CCJ's ruling and consequential orders, accepting the resignation of the chairman of the Elections Commission on the 25th, meeting the leader of the opposition on the 4th and 16th of July, establishing a joint opposition government working group, which has already met 4 times, presenting our case by telephone to the Secretary General of the Commonwealth, presenting our case to the Chairman of the Caribbean Community by telephone, and today meeting the diplomatic corps in Georgetown. Excellencies, there has evidently been strong resistance by the opposition to the elections work plan. The Elections Commission work plan to correct the list of electors by a process of its own choosing. There has also been resistance by the opposition to adopting the procedure for the selection of the chairman of the Elections Commission by a consensual rather than unilateral process. I assure you that I shall remain engaged in working towards ensuring that the Elections Commission receives the support it requires to conduct credible elections in the shortest possible time. I will not intrude or instruct the Elections Commission to vary from the powers granted by the Constitution of Guyana. The government of Guyana accepts that it is an interim administration and must continue to provide certain public services. The Constitution states that notwithstanding a defeat in the National Assembly, the government shall remain in office and shall hold an election under certain conditions. The government has made it clear that during this interim period, it will restrain the exercise of its legal authority and prepare for the holding of general and regional elections by the Elections Commission. We accept that status. The government will continue its routine management of the country. It will address urgent issues that are in the public interest, but will not initiate projects which are controversial or which are irreversible. It will be prepared also to continue to consult with the opposition on matters which require the agreement of both sides. Excellencies, the processes which have led to this present juncture may seem to have been protracted, but it is the government's view that they were necessary to ensure the functioning of the Constitution, the preservation of justice, and the peace and prosperity of the country. I believe that the measures we have taken have fortified democracy. Holding a free and fair and credible elections as soon as possible will make our democracy even stronger. Thank you for coming this morning, and I hope that I have been clear.
All right, thanks for staying tuned. Those of you who are now joining us, that would have been the address from His Excellency, the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, Brigadier David Granger. He addressed members of the diplomatic corps yesterday, and earlier I was talking about all the energy that he has because he did so many addresses. I just felt the need to bring to you the address to the members of the diplomatic corps, because even though it was circulated by the Public Information Unit, I know the members of the media were not present at the time of that address, so we thought it necessary to bring that to you. I just want to reiterate some of what the president said through a statement that the Ministry of the Presidency was forced to release on the 24th of July. That was on Wednesday. Now, these statements keep coming because claims need to be refuted because people continue to lie blatantly. And I thought this important. And it came from the Ministry of the Presidency by the Director General of the Ministry of the Presidency, Mr. Joseph Harmon. Now, it says talks were never discontinued between government and opposition. DG Harmon on Wednesday refuted statements made by the member of the opposition, Ms. Gail Teixeira, that talks have discontinued between the government and opposition on the nominations for the chairman of the Guyana Elections Commission. Now, obviously, listening to the president, you know that is a complete lie. In a press release issued this evening, well, that would have been on Wednesday because I'm reading this release from then. In a press release issued on Wednesday in a press release issued on Wednesday by the Office of the Leader of the Opposition, Mr. Teixeira claimed that, and this is a direct quote which the Public Information Services took from that release, the claim was that it is unbelievable that 1 week has passed and no meeting has been scheduled for the continuation of discussions at the informal level, either between the Leader of the Opposition and the President or with their emissaries. We in the parliamentary opposition thought that we were making progress in the informal engagement, albeit slow, with 4 names that are not acceptable to the president. Understand how difficult it is for me to quote from the members of the opposition at times. Director General Harmon noted that at no point were talks either discontinued by the government or was the opposition disengaged. As a matter of fact, Mr. Harmon said he expects that a meeting will soon be held between the president and the opposition leader. Talks were never broken, and this is a direct quote from the Director General himself. Talks were never broken off. Both sides have been in touch since the last meeting, and as we speak, arrangements are being made to have an engagement between the president and the leader of the opposition, and this should take place very soon, he said. From July 4 to date, there have been 4 meetings between the representatives of the president and the leader of the opposition with the view of hammering, and remember this is the word everyone's using, hammering out the list of names submitted by both parties. There have also been 2 meetings between President David Granger and the opposition leader, Mr. Bart Jaglio, during that time on July 4 and July 16, 2019. Again, I had to read that statement just for people who missed it. Again, I know there's so much happening that the little things can just slip through the cracks. And, interestingly enough, even though some of these things are blatant lies coming from the other side, there are people out there who are unfortunately gullible to believe it, gullible enough to believe them. It's not only a case of gullible if they feel that, for them they're not getting enough information, enough information from the government side is not reaching them. It is very easy for them to latch on to what is coming from the other side and believe every word of it. This is why I keep stressing, do not listen to those folks who are telling you when GCOM comes to, when they're doing house-to-house registration and they're at your door to send them away. Do not listen to those people. I'm sorry, but that is absolute ignorance. The people need to stop feeding the public ignorance. Do not listen to them. Folks, get registered. Again, you need to get registered. It's a must. It is definitely a must. It's not only for voting purposes. And then when you don't get, some of you who decided you're angry, I'm not getting registered because I'm not going and vote, and you're so hyped up about it now. Things can change in an hour. Your feelings can change, your emotions can change. Now, when you don't use the opportunity to go get registered, and then on election day you decide that, look, we really and truly don't want those people that were in office pre-2015. You decide that you really don't want them there. So I must go and vote for the coalition. What are you going to go and do then when you're not registered? You're making it very, very difficult. So as a friend I have on social media, her hashtag is keep them out. You're making it very, very difficult to keep them out. I always say to people, look, somebody has to support one side, somebody has to support another side. But if you're going to be supporting them, at least bring the evidence that they're worth my vote, that, they're worth our votes. You heard me reading the statement from the Guyana Youth and Student Movement earlier today about the achievements that the government would have made. And there are so many in almost every sector. I know today, even though you have the naysayers out there, I always tell you, I like to stay in my lane. It's good to know a little of everything, but I like to stay in my lane. So sometimes when it comes to economics and economic development and so on, those are one of the areas that we have seen development. I actually leave those to the experts to talk about. And on that note, I must tell you that the People's National Congress Reform, they held their weekly press conference this week. I know last week we had Ryan Belgrave here, who just came off of the press conference, and he gave you a breakdown of what was said last week. I did promise you that you would have gotten a taste of that, but I realized throughout the week it was basically shown in its entirety, and most persons would have seen it. But this week, I really and truly had to use some of the time to bring to you what His Excellency said yesterday. So that took up the time, so we didn't get a chance to show you that. But I know this week's press conference at the People's National Congress Reform there at Congress Place, Sophia, concluded maybe about a half hour ago. And in coming back to development, one of the members on the panel today was none other than Mr. Winston Jordan, the Honorable Winston Jordan, Minister of Finance. And I'm told that he touched on economic development, what can happen for our country as we stay on the path of economic development. He also spoke about the oil sector. And I'm told that he used the opportunity to remind the folks that even though everybody's getting excited about the oil sector and this newfound wealth for Guyana, that all of us cannot just sit and expect to get jobs directly in oil. He also spoke about those potential jobs coming off of oil. In other words, to put it a better way that you can easily understand it, the spin-off jobs. You might have an oil company that may need PR personnel, they may need medical personnel. You never know. So it's basically about the spin-off jobs. It's not everyone can go and work directly in oil. And not only is it's not about just going and working directly in oil, but you have to be fairly qualified. Again, qualified. And these days I like that word, qualified. You have to be qualified to be able to work in oil. And it's not only about oil, but because we see some people jumping up wanting to be presidential candidates, but the whole story there. I don't need to get into it, but it's not just about I have to tap into this wealth, I must get a piece of the pie, so therefore I'm entitled. None of us are entitled to anything. Guyana belongs to all of us. No one person is entitled to anything. And I like, as a person who's a Christian, I like to remind you that you didn't bring anything and put it here. The good Lord above put it here. So there are also some memes going around on social media, for those of you who are in the social media world, talking about a certain person, that gentleman who speaks every Thursday and entertains us every Thursday, because I find some of it very amusing. There's a meme saying that asking dear Lord, why is it that this gentleman think that his parents apparently, or whomever left Guyana in the will for him? That's just a reminder. Guyana doesn't belong to any single person. It doesn't belong to any single political party or any single government. Guyana belongs to all of us, and all of us must benefit. In the words of our grandparents and the regular talk on the street, once your neighbor stringberry hair, Guyana belongs to you. So the one-man band might do well to wake up and understand and realize that. But I digressed a bit. I'm coming back to development, the development, what's happening in various sectors. I have a short, because it's also important to remember the many strides that would have been made in infrastructural development from 2015 to now. I have a clip for you in terms of, again, infrastructure development. It was some efforts, a combination of the government's public information services and the Department of Public Information. Those two entities teamed up to remind people of one specific area. Of course, there are many infrastructural developmental areas that we had. Extensive work would have been done from 2015 to now, but there is one that I think, sometimes we forget. It has become a part of the communities that or I should say that they are located in. And sometimes, these are things that we need to be reminded of, that this government came into office and put in place. So I'm going to show you about a 7-minute clip of a young lady from the Public Information Services combined with another communications officer at the Department of Public Information, where they did a brief piece on a specific area when it comes to infrastructure development. Again, this is just to remind you that Guyana has gone places in the last 4 years, has gone positive places, and there are positive things that we can continue to talk about. So I'll have you look at that clip, and of course the time has gone by. By the time we get back, it will be time to wrap up today's conversation. This is Facing the Nation. Stay tuned.
Overpasses located along the East Bank Demerara Public Road represent one of the most significant and fully functional public infrastructure projects that the government has completed to date. The five $500 million structures are equipped with both a ramp and a lift to aid pedestrians of all ages and abilities to cross the road safely. We asked a few rush hour commuters and pedestrians about their experiences using the elevated walkways. Here's what they had to say.
I find it very useful because afternoon traffic, you can't really stop in traffic for people cross because I walk truck. And I know how dangerous that is be, because majority of the time the policeman, them just put up their hand and stop you right there, and them is expect you to stop right there. But with this, you can save life.
The overpass is very great to me. It's convenient for me in the afternoon. Mostly I use it. And because waiting over the other end, you have to wait like 10 minutes if you want to cross to the bottom there. So the overpass is convenient and the exercise is great for me. I enjoy it.
I'm living on the East Bank, and most of my time I will use it because of safety. While it's not too long for me, I'm enjoying it. It's a bit not only safety but a bit of exercising. It's very safety. Because, for instance, we have too many accidents occurring on the road, and it's indeed safety for children who will be going to school day during the week.
The overpass is very productive because it allows you to traverse from one side of the road to the other, and it's most useful because it prevents you from interfering with any traffic that could cause an accident to harm yourself or a driver.
Yes, every day actually, on my way back home. And I find it very useful because it's a lot safer than walking amongst traffic, especially given that most people might not be able to be swift enough to walk through the traffic in time, and it's very risky, so this reduces a lot of the risk.
The commuters encourage all pedestrians to utilize the overpasses because they see safety as a major benefit.
I would encourage them to use it because it's going to be for their good and for their safety. Because at times, despite the traffic light would be on a stop, the drivers tend to still board the traffic light instead of the wait on the lights at times.
It's safe, no complaint about that. Yes, they're targeting everybody, and it's very convenient for people, handicapped people, kids, everybody enjoy it. I know some people don't want to climb the stairs, they want to avoid the stairs, but it's not safe to jaywalk. I think it's better for you to use the overhead crossing and be safe than sorry.
The Ministry of Public Infrastructure, under the leadership of Minister David Patterson, boasts the completion of a staggering number of infrastructural projects that span all 10 administrative regions of Guyana. The minister said that with the completion of every infrastructural project, the ministry would like to see Guyanese taking pride in their physical national development.
Well, the Ministry of Public Infrastructure is a really wide and diverse ministry. We're tasked to look after our aviation sector, our road transportation sector, our maritime sector, and our energy sector. And so we have a wide and diverse team. There's about 14 or 15 different semi-autonomous agencies under the ministry, and then of course we have the ministry administrative section of the ministry per se. So we, with that framework, we're of course tasked with the enviable task of bringing our infrastructure all over the entire gambit of infrastructure up to a level which we as Guyanese would be proud of.
The minister admonished the popular belief that Guyanese aren't ready for certain advancements. This, he said, is the only true hindrance to Guyana becoming one of the leading nations of South America.
We've done in the last 4 years, I think, probably the most amount of roads in a 4-year period that this ministry will have done. We've done new things. We've moved the ideas. I mean, we've done as a group. We've sat as a team and decided that the mantra that used to exist that Guyana is not ready for this, because that the roundabouts is one of the things I could always remember. People always said that the Guyana is not ready for a roundabout because they expected carnage. But we've said Guyanese are ready for anything. Most Guyanese travel, most Guyanese on your whole little law-abiding person as long as you enforce the rules. And it's about time we start getting ready. There's no reason why Guyana should not be one of the outstanding, brightest, shiniest lights in South America. And the only reason stopping us is our ability to dream and tell ourselves that yes, as a Guyanese, we deserve the better is better.
Minister Patterson said the amount of money invested in enhancing infrastructural development, particularly road works, in any region is worthwhile, even if it improves the standard of living of only one citizen.
Even if it's one resident in the road, they deserve to have street lights. They are a contributing member to our society. They pay their taxes, they pay their VAT, and they have all worked to make this a beautiful country. So we've abandoned that principle whereby you must have this amount of persons. I mean, I'm sure there were other criteria other than the number of persons that were applied. We said everyone deserved it. So we systematically are going all the way through from Mahika all the way to Rosic now with street lights for every village. No village we passing behind, big or small.
Guyana, through the Ministry of Public Infrastructure, continues to work assiduously to ensure that Guyanese across the country can access and utilize modern facilities as the country transitions into a green state. Until next time, this has been Government in Action. I'm Grace Williams. Have a good week.
Thank you very much for that piece, Grace. Of course, we took that from a piece of Government in Action produced by the Public Information Services. That's basically the department that works in the public relations interest of the President, His Excellency, Brigadier David Granger, and of course in terms of other governmental projects and governmental developments. Our time has come and gone. I unfortunately will have to leave the program there for this week. Of course, I'll be back with you next week. Before I forget, I did mention earlier in the program, this is the final Facing the Nation program for the month of July, because we're going into a new month next week. Next week is Emancipation Day. I almost said Independence. I don't know why I want to celebrate Independence twice a year, but that's how it goes. But next week is the 1st of August, the celebration of emancipation. I mean, it somehow has become a cliche, but we can never stop saying it. It's time, and it will always be time for us to emancipate ourselves from mental slavery. And so much of us are so many of us are currently in a state of mental slavery, because I don't know why we have the other side of the political aisle, still lying to us, and indeed we are mentally enslaved. But I hope we use next week's celebrations as an opportunity to encourage us to become mentally emancipated. Again, unfortunately, I'm going to have to leave our program right there for this week. I am Malika Ramsey. Thank you so very much to everyone who contributed to making today's program possible, including all the producers that I've been able to gather some information from and put together somewhat of a review program for you. Don't forget, GCOM is headed your way. Registration is ongoing, house-to-house registration. Ensure that you are intact, you have all your documents ready. If you're vain like me, ensure that your makeup and your hair is intact, so when they come, you'll be fine and you'll be ready and raring to go for their cameras, but the important thing is to get registered. I am Malika Ramsey. This has been Facing Nation. Thank you very much for joining. Be good Guyanese citizens. Take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and of course, thanks for watching.